What's up guys, David here and welcome to the Fitpro Daily. This week we have a big week coming your way, and as you can see, I'm nowhere near the gym. I'm actually in the Trafford Centre here in Manchester because this week I'm going on a UK tour, visiting a number of clients, a number of Fitpros and checking out their gym. But to start the week off, we're bringing on David Kingsbury, celebrity trainer, online trainer, and he's going to share how he got started online and how he now runs his online fitness business. Good afternoon, guys, and welcome to today's episode. Today we have David Kingsbury all the way from K1 Fitness and David Kingsbury Online Coaching. Is that what it's named? Yeah?
Something like that. Yeah. It's never quite got a name yet.
Yeah. Welcome to today's episode. You've been one of those people that I've been saying, "Oh, we'll get you on, and eventually I thought, I don't know, I'll just message you and just say, Dave, let's just get it done this week. So first of all, welcome and thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
We start every single episode off the same way, just asking the person, how did you get into the fitness industry?
So I got into the fitness industry when I was 17. I started my premier course in Windsor when I was 17. I'd been interested in fitness. I was a competitive cyclist. Used to race in all the national road events, time trial events, track events, and also raced around Europe as well, in Holland and France and places like that. So I was a decent junior cyclist, and so I was really into my training. And because I was so into my training, I wasn't so much into my school work and college work and things like that. So I dropped out of college and went and did my personal training course instead at 17, qualified at 18, and been working in gyms ever since, basically. So yeah, a long time now.
Yeah. Wow. Every time I ask that question, I find things out which I didn't know before about other people. I know kind of like maybe your recent history and everything, but I didn't know like you'd cycled around Europe and everything. So you've been doing this quite a while now. So I'm guessing you've seen a load of trends, a load of different things happening, and so much being different from that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it was 2007 that I qualified. Personal training, it wasn't a big industry then in the same way it is now. There weren't very many personal trainers about. It was not, it wasn't the same as it is now, and wasn't as understood by, I guess, the general public as it is now in terms of an industry and a career.
Yeah. So what came first then, the online, the gym, or the celebrity trainer side of things?
So the order there is small personal training studio, then celebrity work, and then online. And it was actually, it was quite sort of quick between the three things, and I can talk a little bit about that. So I worked in all the kind of normal places that newly qualified personal trainers work. So worked as a gym instructor, cleaning equipment and all that kind of stuff, and did all those things at the commercial gyms and everything else. Then I went traveling and lived at a Thai boxing camp for a while and been trained over there. And when I got back, I was sort of looking to set up my own PT studio. So in that kind of gap, I'd also worked at a couple of private one-on-one studios and things like that. And I thought, I quite fancy having my own space. And one of my clients worked at Pinewood Film Studios, and they worked in a main office there. So Pinewood Studios, it's a big film studio, but the actual core team for Pinewood, they run the studio itself. So they manage the site, they run the site. And external film productions will come in, Disney, Universal, whoever it might be, they'll come in and then they will rent the space to shoot productions. But also you could rent just real estate, like a business park essentially. So I spoke to him, and he organised for me to speak to the property department there, and then I ended up renting the old squash court. So at Pinewood, there's the old house, which is, I don't know, it's a couple of 100 years old at least, right? And it's it's an old historic building. And it had a squash court attached to it, which had been used for storage. It's like storing files and things like that. And so they cleared it out and I rented that. So I was in a squash court, which I kitted out, rubber floor. I bought all the equipment from one of the James Bond films. So all the stuff that Daniel Craig had been using, I nabbed all that, bought it and kitted out this gym with it. And I got a good deal on that stuff, to be fair. And then obviously started training people at the film studio. I was there for a few years, working with lots of different people. The film industry, there's loads of different people that work within it. So I'm training electricians, security guards, caterers, people that work in finance in the offices. Like there's so many different careers within the film industry. So you work with all sorts of different people. And then eventually I started working with some of the, producers and those types of people. And after a few failed attempts, I got my first kind of film contract. I had interviews for a few and, didn't get them. But then eventually I did kind of get into that side of things and start working with the actors as well.
Yeah, and it really is amazing for most people. You just kind of let the flow of life take you, and if you work hard and you do well, it really does start to show. And like you say, you got back, you spoke to your mate, he found you that squash court, and it kind of just built from there. So
yeah,
you were getting really good face-to-face results. You started training some high-profile clients as well. What made you suddenly then want to venture online then?
so it was the amount of traveling I was doing. So like when I'd expanded my gym at Pinewood at this point. So I kept the squash court, but I'd opened a second area, which was much bigger. And there was other trainers working there with me. And so there's a little team of us, and, we were really busy personal trainers. So I was doing probably 50 sessions a week, around 50 sessions a week. So, on a Monday, I might do 12 sessions. I might do 10 back to back. It's like, that savage PT schedule. So that's what I was doing. And, I think we've all personal trainers have been at that stage where they just say yes, right? It's like, can you train me at 4 a.m? Yes. Can you train me at 10 o'clock at night? Yes. And so I was just putting in like ridiculous hours doing personal training. But then obviously you get a film contract and you go from 50 sessions a week to 5 sessions a week or 4 sessions a week, maybe, right? You might train that because you're working with only one person typically. And the rest of the day you're sitting around, right? You do 1 hour's work and you're just sitting around all day. And so when I'm at the studio, it's okay because you can kind of balance it and you can work with other people there. But then I started traveling a lot with the work. And I think it was in 2012. So in 2012, I was abroad for 11 months. So I was all over the place. I was in Australia, I was in the States, I was in Europe, I was in, I was everywhere. I was just working with one actor in particular, and we were just traveling all over the place. And I was just sat in we were in Atlanta. So I was working with Hugh Jackman, and we were in Atlanta shooting a film called Prisoners. So it's like in the run up to the X-Men Days of Future Past. So there's loads of work we're having to do to get them ready. So I was hired on the job before to kind of kickstart things so that we were ready when it started. And I was just sat like in his trailer in a car park in Atlanta. It's like hammering down with rain. I'm just boredom basically. I was like, right, I need to carry on coaching people. I can't just coach for 1 hour a day. I'd gone from coaching 50 sessions a week to doing so little. And I was like, right, I'm gonna get started with online training. I don't know how to do it, but I'm gonna figure it out and I'm gonna start. So that would have been like early 2012. I started doing online training.
Cool. Yeah. So I know this podcast is about the online side of things, but there's gonna be so many people watching now wondering, wow, what's it like being an online trainer? We've probably seen the term, I've worked with celebrities and stuff like that. But so let me just ask you a few questions. I'm guessing a lot of people are thinking, when you are the trainer for this particular person, are you in total control of what they eat and their workouts and their schedule and everything, or do you just there to coach them and that's it?
So, I mean, you can take control of as much as you like in it, basically. So it depends on the film budget. It depends on a few things, but like often on those higher budget ones, you'll have a chef that is assigned to that. You have a chef that is assigned to that person. So you'll be able to liaise with the chef for every single meal. So when they're in the studio, it's really easy because you go to the chef and you say, right, these are the things we need. These are the times we need it. Either myself or one of the ADs or the assistant can go get the food, take it to the person when they need it. So you're in control of a lot of things, but then there's a lot of things that are out of your control as well. So the timing, the schedule, these things are hectic. So they don't tend to, or they don't schedule training into the working day. It's done outside of the working day. So before they start shooting or at the end when they wrap would be when you typically train. So it wouldn't be unusual to do sessions, at 4:30 in the morning or 10 or 11 o'clock at night. That's not unusual within, in the industry. Or you would like try and grab 45 minutes in between takes or something like that, which can be quite funny if the person's in like full costume, for example. They rock up in the gym and they're in full costume. It can be quite funny, but you are at the mercy of that. And the same with the food. So you'll get the food and they're shooting something. You're like, when are they going to have a chance to eat this? And so, you are at the mercy of the schedule. And it's they can be very, very hectic. So you do have a really good level of control in terms of you're with that person 24/7 essentially. So you can manage the training, you manage nutrition, but you have to constantly be adaptive. You have to find new, it's like, right, we're in this city for 2 days, where should we train? So you have to source a gym, you have to source somewhere to get the food, and you have to run around and do that.
So you had to come find gyms to train out of.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So like on one of the trips, like we were in Bali for a few weeks, and I was flown out like 3 days before to just go get set up at a gym, make sure we got the nutrition sorted, all these kinds of things, so that everything is ready for when they arrive. So it's pretty cool because you do get to be quite organized with it. So you get a very good opportunity for good results ultimately.
Yeah. And let's talk about the results side of things then before we do dive into the online now. Say you've got a big film coming up. How long before the shooting starts do you get access to this person to train them up to look in a specific way for the film?
Yeah, so it's a good question, and actually I think it's one where people think that it's like it's quite a short time frame, and it generally isn't that short. So for example, we're doing a film at the moment that we've been working on since, so I say it's a film, we're working with an actor who's doing a film, and his big scenes, or whatever you want to call it, are in a couple of months time. So we've got another 8 weeks or something like that, and we started it in October. So a good amount of time. The shortest we normally take these kind of things on, if it's quite a big body transformation, would be about 4 months. But for example, on some of the others, you might start winding up things, 6 to 9 months before they start shooting, if the person is organized and serious about it. The benefit that we have is a lot of these guys stay in quite good shape anyway, and so it's not it's not always as profound as people think. They'll say, how do you get in shape so quickly? It's like, well, the guy started training 12 years ago, so it's like you've got a really good foundation for a lot of people. And also one of the other real benefits is that they'll, if you push hard enough, they'll tend to give you a date. So it's like, right, the big day is on this date. And so in the same way, like a physique model, might peak for an event, you can do the same. So you can play around with, the carbs a bit, the hydration a bit, get that really impactful day, and then you can ease off the gas a little bit, right? So you can peak essentially for days. And the way we do that is like, right, if the actor's shirtless in the production, if they're shirtless in a film, then the first time the audience sees them shirtless is the most important one, right? So you go, right, we're going to go all in on that particular scene, and then you can relax, because once that's in someone's mind, it's like, oh wow, they looked incredible. Then for the rest of it doesn't matter so much. But that first one is really important.
Okay, last question on this then. Have you ever had to work with somebody who's been maybe a little bit scrawny like me, and then they've had to turn out to like the Hulk and massive, and you've had to really change, like a really serious transformation?
Yeah, so we've done a few of those, and they're obviously a lot more challenging than the people that have that foundation of training. We worked with an actor a couple of years ago who had to put on quite a lot of muscle, and he wasn't really up for it, and so that was quite challenging, because it was like, I had to make like protein shakes which are like 1,200 calories, just because he wasn't into he didn't want to eat the food, he didn't want to do the thing. So we had to really kind of angle our ways into trying to do it. But overall, because you're working with quite motivated people who, they're not getting paid to do it, in the sense that, like, a lot of actors don't earn a fortune. Like, they do well with it, but they're doing their job ultimately, but they they will put the effort in for it, and so you are able to get pretty good results from people, especially if there is a good amount of time. But yeah, we have done a few like that, where like we worked with one guy, and he put on a couple of stone. He had to really kind of bulk out, and he's a very, very lean guy, and he did put on a couple of stone, some body fat with it naturally, but he did add a lot of muscle mass as well.
Cool. Okay. So you're sat in this trailer, it's pouring down with rain. You're like, oh, I really need to get back into coaching. And like maybe a lot of people now, COVID is disappearing or lockdown's finishing, I really want to get into online training. How does somebody, how did you get started in it then?
So I set up I had a website. I set up a page on the website that was like, I used PayPal button on a page, and it was like, right, I think I was selling 8 weeks and 16 weeks programs for like $5.99 and $7.99. So it's quite, for the time, it was probably quite expensive. And my website got a lot of traffic. I did the press tour for one of the big films. Like I think I was on the press tour for the Wolverine or something like this. My website was getting so much traffic, and people were just buying it.
Really?
Like there was nothing. There was no sales process. There was no, in those early days, it was, it was quite good. I mean, I was on Good Morning America, live from Times Square, and it's like there's probably, I don't know, 50 million people watching that, or 20 million people. Like it's ridiculous. And so the website was getting a lot of traffic, thousands and thousands of hits a day. And so we picked up some good sales early on. And then from there, it's just me working on it for a long time, just me by myself. I stopped all personal training aside from film work, and would do coaching calls with people. I'd do all my program creation on every Sunday. All the meal plans were done. I hired a nutritionist to create all the meal plans for me, and they're all done in Word documents that I converted to PDFs. I did Excel programs that I converted into PDFs, and I would send all that stuff out. It was it was good stuff, good programs, very basic technically, but very good from a results point of view. Very simple, and very personalized, very time consuming. And obviously I went down that route. Then I created a few ebooks and things like that I started selling, and I started running, Facebook traffic too, and Google traffic too. And back in 2012, 2013, it was very, very cheap cost per click.
Those are the days.
we could have like the before and after picture in the ad, and it's like, do you want results? Like, do you want to drop body fat like this guy? And there was no rules in that. So it grew quite quickly. And then I kind of eased off of it, because I was doing so much of the, we were really busy on the film work. And so I eased off of it. I wasn't doing quite as much. And then it was probably like in 2013 or 2014, I actually hired a couple of people to come in and help me. And we went for it, in a slightly bigger way. And now there's like quite a lot of us coaches and salespeople and admin, and, it's quite a nice team of us that do it now.
Cool. Okay. So somebody listening or watching this who hasn't been as fortunate as you, in the way you were literally sat next to a really famous actor when you decided that you were going to go for this, how would somebody getting started who is really a nobody in their local town or area, how would they get started with online?
So it's really interesting you say that, because for me, my journey was quite it's quite an interesting one, in the sense I started with that, and then it was essentially all taken away. So I was given testimonials, I was given these types of things, which have since been removed from my I'm no longer allowed to use a lot of the things I would have used in the past, in terms of imagery, in terms of quotes, in terms of, and these are things that I own, but they've still been taken away. And things change, right? I'm not going to bore you with the details, but things change. People invest in fitness, ventures, or whatever it might be, and so circumstances change, and things do change. So we cannot rely on that for marketing anymore. I can say that I'm a film personal trainer, I'm a celebrity personal trainer and those types of things. But what I can't, there's a lot of things that I don't do anymore. We don't do any PR work anymore. We used to do a lot. So I used to write for a lot of publications and things. We do none now because we don't know what they're going to say. And whatever they say comes back on us. We've been sent a lot of legal threats and things like that from actors where I've written an article and they've spun it in a certain way and said this or said that. So we actually have to be really, really careful within what we say and what we do, because otherwise we'll get cease and desist. It's intense. So actually where I'm at now is probably very similar to where most PTs are, in the fact that I kind of have to be just a personal trainer. Yes, I can say that I've worked with celebrities and people in, different industries and high ends, but ultimately I can't be like, I am this guy's trainer, I have to be careful with what I do. And so, within that, I think it's, there is a lot to be said for really talking to, your target market in as much detail as you can around the problems that you solve, their individual problems you solved, and you want to be really relatable to those people. I'm a big fan of having a lot of, within our marketing, our whole marketing is built around having conversations with people, talking to people. We automate bits of it, but huge portions of our marketing is not automated, and it is manual. It's manpower. It's conversations. We have teams in Messenger who talk to people. We have teams on SMS that talk to people. We have salespeople that talk to people. We have coaches that talk to people. And so all of it at every stage is having conversations with people that people can relate to, and they understand that, they relate to the stories we tell, the struggles that we've helped other people overcome, and those types of things. So it's, if I was to give any advice, it would be to have as many conversations as possible.
Yeah, we definitely have to go back to that point you were saying about you can't use your previous stuff.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of us need to be careful with that. You might have the greatest clients in the world where you've got amazing success, and then one day like that, you can never use my picture ever again. And that's the picture that you've relied on making all your sales.
I think everyone has to be a lot more careful, full stop. So as certainly as well as your business and your brand grows, you have to be more and more careful, but everyone has to be careful, because most people break the rules without necessarily even know they're breaking the rules. So like an example of this is we used an image for our blog a couple of years ago, right? And the image came from, Shutterstock or something like this. And we had a letter from the photographer's legal team threatening to sue us over the use of the image. Okay, and we get this letter, and it's a very, very aggressive letter, and it's along the lines of, right, you need to prove that you paid for this, otherwise, there's going to be a legal action. You can't just take it down because you've been using it since XYZ date, and therefore this is going to proceed in this way. And so I speak to Chris, who does my websites, and he goes, yeah, no problem. I'll send them the invoice from Shutterstock. And I'm like, you legend. So he sent it over to them, and that was the last you heard. But if he had just ripped that image, like so many people do, then you're in trouble. Do you know what I mean? And so everyone has to be careful. You have to know what you can and you can't do. And even if you can do some things, sometimes it's better off not doing them. So there's images that I own. They're my images taken on my phone, which I do not use, even though I can use them. But it's not worth the battle. Yeah, there is, but it's not. Yeah, but it's not worth the battle. And they're mine. They were taken on my phone with permission. They're my images. So do you know what I mean? It's like, but it's not worth the battle because I will lose. Do you know what I mean? So.
Okay, so you were sat in your trailer. You decided you were going to start doing online personal training. How did you decide who it is you would actually want to work with, or did you decide I'll just work with anybody that wants training?
So I decided that I'd work with anyone that wanted training. That was what I did initially, and the audience, and then my audience found me essentially, because of what I became best known for within the film industry, and that was like the superhero stuff or the Assassin's Creed, like these types of films. So it was like, then it was just kind of that natural progression that, men, and I think also because of the guys that I was training, so not the actual characters, but the actual people, because of the age of them, the gender of them, I think then it just became quite a natural transition. And so now obviously we're still very broad. Like I'm not, I'm not neat. Like I don't have a niche essentially. Like I work with men who are 35 to 55 in general, who, want to look good, want to get in superhero shape, right? Like that's, we'd say, but it's not particularly niche. Dialing in a niche a little bit more is probably it's probably a good idea, unless you want to throw a lot of ad spend at it.
Yeah, it is quite an interesting one. Like you say, let that tag mag almost find you. It really is a case of don't pick something straight away, because you might 6 months down the line you just hate working with that type of audience.
Well, I really think as well with that is you've got to know and love your audience, right? Do you know what I mean? Like if you're not passionate about the audience that you want to serve, it's going to be really really difficult. And so I've never tried to like break into an industry that I don't know anything about. It's always been like the stuff that I love doing myself and the people that I love training the most. And that's what then it's naturally happened. And it's no coincidence that the people that we serve now are the type of people that I love to train. They're the people I enjoy training the most.
And then once you found that audience, you just start creating the content specific for that type of audience.
Yeah, because we can dial our audience down a touch, to be honest, because none of them are overweight. None of them, they all train already, so we can dial it in a little bit more. Most of them are in good shape and do train already, and we just help take them to the next level. So that does dial us in one level further than men, because typically we work with men who already train or who have trained in the past. So that does dial it in a little bit more. That's not exclusively, but if you were to look at it, overall, we do work with more of those types.
Cool. Okay. So you decided your target audience, your online is the right thing for you. Like you said, you chose an 8 or 12-week program at a pretty high level when you initially started. I know your sales setup now as well. How does somebody decide on what pricing they should be going in at?
I mean, how much do you want to earn? How many hours do you want to work? Like, I think you can crunch some numbers on this stuff, right? And you can figure it out. Like, how many clients do you want to look after? How much do you want to earn? It's very, it's quite simple. If you're a one-man band, you can break it down like that, because most of the money is profit. And especially if you're not spending too much on ads or anything like that. And so you can break it down. You say, right, realistically, I think, managing 25 clients, 30 clients might be sensible for me. And this is how much I want to earn. And therefore this is what I'm going to charge. It's just you add it up. One of the things that we consider, so I wouldn't consider us high ticket. We are now, I would consider us mid ticket, which is something that we've moved towards. And the reason for that is because we have fairly big team, and we need to keep that team ticking over. And so selling at mid ticket, we can sell with a high frequency, and it's a little bit easier for us. But also one of the things that that I consider with this is essentially the service debt, right? So it's what we promising here. Do you know what I mean? Like what are the expectations? Are people expecting that if they text me at 11 o'clock at night, they're going to get text back? Like, so there's also an expectation you have to set within your price point as well. And so what we've done is we have a service debt which is very manageable, rather than one that is not manageable for the team. Yeah. So if they do get a call at midnight, they don't have to answer it. Do you know what I mean? And so you have to set a precedent for what you're willing to do as well, like what lengths you're willing to do, and where you draw the line there. And then I think you do have to decide your pricing a little bit around that too. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's definitely a key one. If anything as well, under promise and over deliver. Last thing you want to do is promise way more than you can manage yourself, because that will look bad on you.
Yeah, like for me, like I used to sell a quite high price program with weekly calls, and I ended up having to cancel calls because of the studios and the films. They'd be messing me about, and they'd be like, right, can you train so and so at this time? I'd be like, yeah, no problem. And then they would change it. They would, it would just be constantly moving the goalposts. And so then I would have to get on the, I'd have to email my call clients and rearrange their calls, and so you end up letting people down. That's because of the nature of my work. But at the same time, it became difficult to, I had 25 weekly coaching call clients myself, something like that. So then I changed my package, and I just do a call once every 2 weeks. Yeah. So I can service the same number of clients, but with less calls. And so obviously it becomes a lot easier.
Yeah. Okay. So how we know our program, we know our target audience, we know how much we're going to charge. The final step really is finding the people for our program. Mm-hmm. How do people go about finding people?
Yeah, I mean, it's there's a question right there, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? So, like, we've done a bit of everything over the years, right? So we get organic sales, we run a lot of paid ads as well. And I do think having a combination of both things is a good thing. We steer towards paid advertising over organic typically, because it's a little bit more predictable. If you know your numbers, it's a little bit more predictable. And so for us, with a sales team and coaching team of, like I say, quite a few people, having something that's predictable is less stressful. And so, my overheads within the online business are very high. And so we have to keep that, we have to sell a lot, and so in order to do that, if we know our numbers and we can run ads, then we'll run ads. And then, obviously having organic content there as well for picking up people that maybe come through the ads but don't buy straight away, and then they can be fed into organic. They can, follow you on Instagram, do your, follow your Facebook, etc. And then they might come back 6 months later, 12 months later. So this is where having both parts is a really good thing. I'm not a good example of this because I don't create very much content, and it's something that I know I should be doing more of. I'm lazy in that sense, where I'll just maybe increase my ad budget rather than make a video. Do you know what I mean? Like, to be perfectly honest, but it's something that I would 100% recommend that people do. And it's something that now that the gyms are kind of back open again and stuff like that, is something that we're going to get back into as well.
And that really is it, building up that complete ecosystem, not just 100% relying on one thing. So if you put all your eggs into Facebook ads and Facebook decides to ban your ad account, you are in big trouble. But like you say, somebody comes in, they don't buy, they get the email follow-ups, they come on your social media, they're still in this ecosystem. So the more channels and more places we can be spreading the message, the better it will be.
Yeah, and I mean, this is probably more than anyone, is that things change, right? Strategies change, marketing changes, things have to change. So we run, we'll run a really successful campaign and we go, yeah, we cracked it. This is it. This is the one, right? And then 2 weeks later, it goes, and you go, okay, this doesn't work anymore. What should we do now? And so you go, right, okay, now we're going to run lead forms, and we're going to run lead forms with SMS or phone, or a call center, and then you go that route, and it works okay. But then it starts to die off and someone lets you down. And so you go, right, now we're going to go back to this. And so we have like 3 or 4 methods that we use at various points in time to various degrees of success. And like you say, you can't rely solely on any one. There is no one magic solution to this. There's many ways of achieving it, which all can work, but they can also all not work as well.
Cool. So if things are going well, you're selling lots of people onto these 8 weeks or 12-week programs. What do you do then? After they've completed the 8 weeks, do you try and sell them again, or do you put them on monthly or something?
We transitioned to a subscription maybe in 2015 or 2016. So everyone that we sign up goes into a subscription.
That's on the front end.
Yeah, so it's like 8 weeks into subscription.
Cool. Yeah. And then is that cheaper or more expensive, or how does that work?
It's more expensive to sell, but obviously lifetime value is better. And when we did that, within a few months, our monthly, our business almost doubled within a few months.
Yeah, it makes
because it was just so much less admin on the at the end of the pro. It's just like keeping people on. it's much easier to keep clients than it is to find new ones.
Yeah, you don't have to keep reselling either, which is
No.
so important.
So it saves you money, it saves you time, it saves you resources. You just have to do a good job. So I mean, we have clients that have been with us for 7 years, 8 years online. Who I've got coaching clients who have been on weekly calls for 6 years. It's ridiculous. And they'll be worth tens of thousands to me as a client, right? So yeah, I mean, like it is much easier to keep clients than it is to constantly having to find new ones, which is why we go for a subscription model.
Nice. Okay. So everything's going well. You're making sales. You're getting people on the subscription model. This is really the final question I have. Who would be the first team member that you would want to hire?
I think this will differ from person to person, because it depends on what you are good at and what you enjoy. So the first I hired, my first hire was, I'm not going to say admin because they're not admin, but it is admin really. It's like organization. It's that side of things, because it's not an area, it's not an area that is one of my strengths. So I went down the route of someone that could help me build everything, make everything look good, but also was very organized and very structured. And so that was the first one I went to. And exactly, website developer, website designer, product designer, that route. And that's the route I went. And then after that, the next hires were sales, because I don't mind doing, I can sell, right? But the next was sales, and then it was coaching, and then more, then virtual assistants, admin, and stuff like that. But I think it does depend greatly upon where, because like for me, marketing is something that is, because I run a lot of my own marketing, and obviously you run the marketing for my gym, and you also help me a lot with my online marketing. But marketing is actually an area where I do a lot of the work as well, isn't it? So it's like, for me personally, that wasn't something I enjoy. So that was something quite late for me. Whereas for someone else, if they don't know anything about marketing, or if they don't enjoy it, then that would be something they need to do much, much earlier. Yeah. And so for me, like, I was still really enjoying my coaching. So I didn't hire a coach first up. I just carried on coaching. But then, now I'm hiring coaches who are better coaches than me. And I'm hiring salespeople that are better salespeople than me. I'm hiring, admin who are more organized than me. So, it's really nice when you start hiring people, because at first you're really worried that it's not you. And then you realize that there's people that are much better than you, and then your business can grow. And so, I think that if you don't understand, like for me, starting again, if I learned marketing, whereas really I should have hired marketing, and carried on doing the other bits I was good at, but because I learned marketing and I carried on with it. But I would probably, like, honestly, like, I think I would go down that kind of marketing route first, truthfully, for a lot of people, because do you want to be a trainer or a marketer? Because they're very different things. Do you know what I mean? Like, it might be the route I go. If you're terrible at sales, then maybe you get sales. If you hate coaching, and some personal trainers hate coaching, they just have ended up being a personal trainer. And so you might hire a trainer, you might hire a coach to do the coaching, and you might, like me, instead enjoy running a business rather than actually coaching sessions. Because I don't really coach sessions anymore.
Cool. Okay. So let's finish it off like this then. If you've got any final, maybe 2 or 3 tips for anybody at any level of their own online journey, whether they're just getting started or they're mid-range or they've been going for years and years and years, what final tips could you give somebody?
Yeah. So, I think, one of the things that you said is, like, not over promising. And I think that, it's really like making sure you are doing a good job with the clients that you've got. We're all guilty of, like, signing someone up and then being like, right, next person. But it's like, really, focus on the quality of your service and that side of things, because it speaks volumes about your business and your brand. And in this current day and age, reviews, like, it's a massive, like, review culture. Like, Trustpilot, Facebook reviews. People can be savage. So make sure your service is really good. Make sure people are happy, look after people, and make sure people are getting good results. So that, I mean, I guess it's really basic, but I do think that it's a fundamental. I wouldn't encourage people to spend massive amount on advertising until they have that side of things sorted, right? So, are your clients getting good results? Are you looking after your clients? Are your clients happy? Make sure that you can say yes to that before you start worrying about too much else, right? One of the things I would say to people is to just, to get started. A lot of people are worrying about how, everything being perfect, right? We want this landing page to be perfect. We want this thing to be perfect. We want it all to be perfect. But there is a case for just getting cracking with it and then working on it as you're going and improving it constantly. And really going at that route. It's a difficult question because obviously people are at such different stages. So some people might have one client, some people might have they might have an organization where they might have 400 clients. And obviously the advice would be really different. Being as I'm talking to you, I would say, and potentially knowing your audience, I guess the final one would be to really know your numbers. How much can you afford to spend to acquire a customer? Like, what's your profit margins per customer? How much are you earning per hour per customer? Who are your best customers? In terms of financially, like knowing your numbers is crucial. A lot of people are spending money on ads and they don't know how they don't know the LTV, lifetime value of a client. They don't know the cost of acquisition. They don't even know how much net profit they're going to make after taxes, after charges, after transaction fees, blah, 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 blah. And so it's really knowing that, because as your business grows, that becomes ridiculously important. So, when your business starts to turn over, large sums of money, your margins get tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter. And so if you get your numbers wrong, you start losing money because you get a VAT, we just had a VAT bill through, you get your VAT bill through and you're like, oh God, do you know what I mean? And it's like, when you start taking away 20% on every transaction, and then you take away 150, 200 pounds cost per acquisition, and you pay your salesperson, you pay your coach, you pay we spend thousands a month on software. Like, once you're paying all this stuff out, you have to really know your numbers. And I think the sooner people start understanding the numbers, the better it's going to be for the business, because otherwise you can get some big shocks along the way. So that would be, I think that's probably the most important thing I would say to someone.
Cool. We just have one more final question.
Yeah.
Do you run one core program or all your programs tailored?
So all of our coaching programs are tailored, but we have been known and do we run campaigns of lower price products and challenges occasionally. So these would be like pre-written programs, and we do sell those, but all of our coaching is custom coaching with calls and coaching calls. We don't do any Zoom sessions or anything like that, obviously. But we do have periods of the year where we do run campaigns for selling like cheap programs, essentially, yes. And we use that as a way of bringing in people to the business for profit, but for very little, very little profit, but it's basically free leads.
Yeah, perfect. Dave, final thing, if somebody was coming to want to learn a bit more about you or find out, just learn more about who David Kingsbury is, how can they find out a little bit more about you?
They probably can't because I don't post anything anymore. But no, I'm on Instagram, Team Kingsbury. I don't post it very often. Facebook as well, which is, I think, David Kingsbury Personal Training, and obviously my website, which is davidkingsbury.co.uk or davidkingsbury.com. Yeah, I mean, everyone needs to give me a bit of a push to create a bit more content, but yeah, it's something that I'm going to be focused on doing over the next year, that's for sure.
No worries. Dave, I appreciate your time today. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having me, mate. I really appreciate it. It was brilliant.
No worries. So that was David Kingsbury explaining and showing to us how he got started in the fitness industry, how he became a celebrity trainer, and how he started his own online fitness business. like I said, this week we're on the road, traveling and meeting a number of Fitpros and checking out their gyms. So hopefully I got some great content coming your way this week. But for now, I'll leave it there. I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and I'll speak to you all tomorrow. Cheers.